You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of success. Amid the buzzing notifications and endless to-do lists, amid coffee shops filled with laptops and hustle culture conversations, in a world where being overwhelmed has become a status symbol, we've lost something fundamental. Pause. Absence. Silence. Stop. Perhaps the real crisis of our time isn't that we're doing too little, but that we never give ourselves the chance to do nothing. Let's start with an experiment. Stop. Pause this video. Sit in complete silence for just 1 minute. Don't reach for your phone. Don't check your email. Just sit. How did that feel? Uncomfortable? Anxious? Sudden urge to grab your phone? If so, you're not alone. Anthropologist Thomas Erickson says we live in an era of the tyranny of the moment, where every instant must be filled, and this fullness is our greatest addiction. Look at your average day. Alarm at 6:30, checking your phone with eyes still closed. Morning routine mixed with podcast listening. Workday filled with meetings. Lunch while scrolling through short videos. Evening, Netflix, social media, maybe some work for tomorrow, all accompanied by constant notification checking. Where's the space to meet yourself? Time is money, capitalism teaches us. But what if time isn't money? What if time is just time? A moment of your life that can be lived in different ways. We've created a cult out of productivity. Time management books have become our sacred texts. Productivity methods, rituals, achievements, prayers, and phone notifications, bells calling us to worship. Psychologist and philosopher Erich Fromm warned about this in the mid-20th century. He described the marketing personality, a person who values themselves only as much as they can be sold in the labor market. In such a paradigm, your value is what you can do, not who you are. And therein lies the root of the problem. Imagine the situation. Friday, end of workday. All colleagues are going for drinks, but you say, "No, I'll stay and work a bit more." How will you be perceived? As a hero, dedicated, ambitious. Now imagine saying, "I'm leaving an hour early because I want to sit in the park and think about life." How will you be perceived now? Weird. Someone who doesn't take work seriously. Hear that difference? It says a lot about us as a society. But why are we so afraid of silence? Why do we fill life with noise, tasks, continuous activity? Psychoanalyst Carl Jung said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." And existentialist philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote about the sickness unto death, an inner despair we try to drown out with activity. Here's the most disturbing truth. We often use productivity not to achieve goals, but to avoid inner emptiness. Remember the last time you were suddenly left alone? Maybe plans got canceled, or the internet went out, or you just got sick and had to stay home without the ability to work. How quickly did thoughts you'd been avoiding for months start to appear? Does what I'm doing really matter? Am I happy in my relationships? Am I on the right path? These existential questions are always there, waiting for us in the silence, and it seems safer to never give that silence a chance. "How are you?" we ask each other. "Oh, so busy," is the answer we expect to hear. Now stop and think. When was the last time you heard something like, "Oh, I'm in a great balance right now. I work just as much as I need to, and I have plenty of time for myself"? Being busy has become an identity, a status, proof that you're important. Sociologist Thorstein Veblen described the phenomenon of conspicuous consumption back in 1899, when we buy things to demonstrate status. Today we have a new phenomenon, conspicuous busyness. "I never have time," your colleague says, and it sounds almost like bragging, as if their time is so valuable that it's catastrophically scarce, and you think, they must be very important. But constant exhaustion isn't a sign of success. It's a symptom of imbalance and often loss of meaning. Let's talk about Anna. Anna is 32, a marketer at a large company. Every night she goes to bed late, checking work emails in bed. Every morning she wakes up with anxiety and checks messages first thing. She cancels meetings with friends because of work, and prides herself on being considered a workaholic. But one day Anna got sick. The flu confined her to bed for a week without the ability to work. And in this forced pause, amid fever and fatigue, she suddenly realized the company worked without her. The world didn't stop. And scariest of all, after a week without work, she didn't feel any loss of identity. And this made her ask, if not work, then who is she? Where did this cult come from? Why has being productive become almost a religious duty? History leads us to the Protestant work ethic, described by sociologist Max Weber. It proclaims work as a moral obligation and success as a sign of God's grace. This ideology was absorbed by capitalism, which transformed it into an economic imperative: work more, earn more, consume more. But the digital era has taken this cult to a new level. Now we're always available, always connected, always able to work. Entrepreneurs like Elon Musk pride themselves on 100-hour work weeks and normalize the culture of working to exhaustion. The hashtag hustle has flooded social media, and the phrase, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," has become the proud cry of a new generation. And in this context, not working is almost like sinning. Constant busyness has its price, and it's high. Psychologist Barry Schwartz shows in his research a direct correlation between obsession with success and increasing depression. We see it in statistics, record levels of burnout, anxiety disorders, and depression. Here's shocking statistics. In Japan, they even have a special word, karoshi, death from overwork. According to official data, hundreds of people literally die from excessive work each year. But there are less dramatic yet no less serious consequences. Loss of connection with yourself. When you're constantly busy, you don't know who you are beyond your achievements. What do you love? What makes you happy? What's important to you? Destruction of relationships. Not now, I have a deadline. A phrase that eventually leads to loneliness and alienation from loved ones. Chronic diseases, stress, sleep deprivation, sedentary lifestyle, all direct paths to serious health problems. Loss of creativity. Innovative ideas are born not in a state of constant stress, but in moments of calm and reflection. David, a successful IT specialist, once told me, "I was so focused on work that when my father was in the hospital, I only visited him once. I thought, work won't wait. But now that he's gone, I realize that life doesn't wait either." It's scary. To wake up one day realizing that while you were optimizing your life for maximum productivity, life itself passed you by. So what exactly is happening? What psychological mechanisms make us escape from ourselves into work? Fear of emptiness. Philosopher Pascal wrote about the horror of empty spaces. We fear emptiness, uncertainty, silence, and we fill them with anything. Avoiding existential anxiety. According to Viktor Frankl, facing questions about the meaning of existence creates anxiety. It's easier to just not stop, to avoid thinking about it. Fear of insignificance. In a world where your value is determined by productivity, the thought, "What if I achieve nothing?" causes real horror. Escape from pain. Being constantly busy is the perfect way to avoid internal wounds, traumas, unhealed emotional injuries. External validation. Look, I'm important, I'm needed. Our busyness shouts to the world when we ourselves doubt our own value. Let's return to an example. Here's Steve, a 41-year-old manager who grew up in a family where success was measured by achievements. He works 12-14 hours a day, misses his children's birthdays because of important meetings, and even prides himself on his ability to respond to emails at 3 a.m. But what's hiding behind this busyness? "If I stop, then who am I?" he confesses during therapy. "Without work, I feel like nobody." This admission reveals the true nature of the obsession with productivity. It's not a tool for achieving goals. It's a shield against the fear of discovering that behind all these goals, there might be nothing. First, I want to get into a good college, then get a promising job, then get promoted, then buy a house, then save for retirement. Familiar sequence, right? It's a script we all know by heart. We're taught that life is progress, moving forward, achievement. Small victories today for a big reward in the future. But on the way to this someday, we often lose now. Famous psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, researcher of flow state, paradoxically found that people are happiest when completely immersed in an activity that captivates them for its own sake, not for the sake of some distant goal. Interesting, isn't it? Happiness is not in achieving the goal, but in the process of activity that has intrinsic value. Now think, how many things do you do not because they bring pleasure or have meaning, but because they're necessary or useful for the future? Our society is built on delayed gratification. Suffer now, enjoy later, but often this later never comes. When I get promoted, I'll finally rest. When the kids grow up, I'll pursue my hobbies. When I retire, I'll start living. And so, the future becomes hostage to an endless marathon of achievements. And life turns into preparation for a life that never begins. Here's the biggest irony. True productivity often grows not from constant busyness, but from regular rest. Neuroscientist Marcus Rachel showed that the brain is most creative and productive when it periodically rests. The default mode network state, when the brain is relaxed and wandering, is when the most original ideas and solutions are born. Remember, where do you usually get your best ideas? In the shower, on a walk, when falling asleep. That is, in moments when you're not trying to be productive. But we're so obsessed with the metric of done that we lose the value of not doing. The Japanese concept of ma is the idea of the importance of pauses, the emptiness between notes that makes music itself possible. Without pauses, there's no rhythm, only noise. Surgeon Atul Gawande, in his book Being Mortal, tells the story of a patient who, after decades of 80-hour work weeks, received a terminal cancer diagnosis. When asked what he regretted, the man replied, "I regret that I spent so much of my life in enclosed spaces, doing things I didn't love, for people who didn't care about me." When we focus only on productivity, we fall into a trap. We start living for presentations, reports, achievements, and we lose the essence of life itself. So how to break this cycle? How to free yourself from the cult of productivity without falling into another extreme? Let's start with understanding. The problem isn't with productivity itself. The problem is in losing balance and in unhealthy motivation. Here are a few practical steps toward a healthier balance. Practice productive idleness. Schedule time when you just exist. Don't plan anything. Don't try to use this time. Just be. Question your motivation. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Does it bring me joy? Does it make sense to me? Or am I doing it to escape from something or please someone? Reassess your metrics of success. What does it mean to you to have a good day? How about the quality of relationships, moments of joy, inner peace? Implement disconnection rituals. Digital detox, meditation, walks without your phone, anything that brings you back to the present moment. Allow yourself to be unproductive. Do things without purpose. Draw, even though you're not an artist. Write, even though no one will read it. Play, even though there's no benefit. Here's an example. Maria, a marketing department head, introduced a no-meeting Wednesday rule into her life. It's a day when she doesn't schedule any meetings, turns off notifications, and just allows herself to think, plan, dream, or simply look out the window. It seemed illogical, she says. But it's on these days that the best ideas are born, and paradoxically, these days make other days much more productive. But most importantly, it's learning to be with yourself, in silence, in the moment when all distractions disappear. It's scary. Meeting yourself means meeting all your fears, doubts, unresolved questions. Psychotherapist Irvin Yalom says we all face 4 basic existential fears: death, freedom and responsibility, isolation, and meaninglessness. And these fears surface precisely when we stop. But in this meeting with emptiness, there's a chance to find your true self, beyond roles, achievements, and social expectations. One patient after a week of technological detox said, "The first 2 days were hell. I felt anxiety, boredom, irritability. But then something happened. I began to hear my own thoughts. I felt myself, for the first time in many years." Perhaps the greatest courage today is to simply stop and ask, who am I beyond what I do? The cult of productivity may seem all-powerful, but in human history, there have been many cults that came and went. The Japanese concept of ikigai, finding the intersection between what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for, offers a more balanced approach to work and meaning. The ancient Greek idea of eudaimonia, or flourishing, reminds us that a good life lies not in the pursuit of pleasure or avoidance of pain, but in developing your best nature. A Native American saying goes, "Sometimes I need to sit on the riverbank for a very long time before I understand how to cross it." This is wisdom we've forgotten in our society of instant solutions and constant movement. What if we started valuing not only productivity, but also presence? Not only achievement, but also awareness. Not only moving forward, but also the ability to be here and now. It's a different paradigm. And perhaps it's exactly what we need in a world that's becoming increasingly fragmented, fast, and alienated. Let's return to the beginning of our conversation. You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of success, and discovering that achievements didn't bring you the sense of fulfillment you so craved. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." In an era that values action more than reflection, perhaps the most revolutionary act is examining your own life. Here's my invitation. Try to set aside at least 10 minutes daily for productive idleness. No phone, no purpose, just sitting, watching, feeling, being. And here's a question for reflection. Write in the comments what you've never allowed yourself to do because of the fear of wasting time, and what held you back. Perhaps true freedom isn't about getting everything done, but allowing yourself not to get some things done for the sake of those that have real value. And who knows, maybe in the pause between inhale and exhale, between what's done and what's planned, you'll finally find the answer to the question, what's it all for? Productivity is a great servant, but a terrible master. It should serve your life, not the other way around. In one Zen Buddhist monastery, there's a saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The meaning isn't in what you do, but in how and why you do it. Let your busyness be a conscious choice, not an escape. Let your productivity be an expression of yourself, not its replacement. Let your time be lived, not just spent. Now turn off this video and just be with yourself, at least for a few minutes. Doing nothing. Rushing nowhere. Just being. Perhaps this is the most important productivity of all.